Hi, friends. Before we dive into this week's episode, I want to share with you about my signature course, She Sells Wholesale. I know so many of you guys ask questions about how do you get started with wholesaling because it can be complicated. I know because I have been there. And when I first started wholesaling my candles with my candle company, Heart Design Co., I failed miserably for several months, but I hit month 3 and I had my candles in over 120 retailers. So I am sharing with you my exact framework inside my signature course, She Sells Wholesale, and you can jump on the wait list at shesellswholesale.com. I only open up the course twice a year. So you want to make sure that you get on the wait list so you know when the course opens up, and it's opening soon. I will actually send you a free gift when you sign up on the wait list. So check it out at shesellswholesale.com. That's shesellswholesale.com.
You have time, and what is it time for? Like those two things, you have to slow down, because if you're just trying to cram more into your, hours and minutes in your day, you're only going to stay on that hamster wheel.
Yes.
And so it does take getting off of that, and I challenge you, like when you don't feel like you have time is exactly when, you take a pause, you remind yourself, I do have time. God has given me 24 hours today. And then ask that question, what is it time for?
Hi, friends. Welcome to She Sells Differently, the show for aspiring women entrepreneurs looking to overcome the fear of selling and grow thriving businesses from a place of authenticity and confidence. I'm Andy Hart, and it wasn't all that long ago that I was a sales executive for a Fortune 500 company. But I knew in my heart that I was called to use my gifts for something more, something different. That's exactly why I created the She Sells Differently podcast. Each episode is going to deliver you business strategies, tools, and mindset shifts to help set you and your brand apart from our culture's expectations. It's time to elevate your sales and build a profitable, sustainable business you're proud of. One built on integrity, grace, and humility. It's time to learn how to sell differently. Welcome to the She Sells Differently podcast. We are so blessed that you are here. And if you are one of these people out there, I'm sure you are because I am, that you are thinking to yourself, I just don't have enough time to grow my business. Today's conversation is going to flip that belief on its head. So my guest, Lyssa Figgins, is here, and Lyssa calls herself a recovering busyness owner. I love that. She's a time scaling strategist who helps Christian women entrepreneurs stop chasing the clock and start multiplying the 24 hours they have instead. And instead of hustling harder, which is what our culture always tells us to do, Lyssa teaches us how to make time your greatest business asset. And so welcome, Lyssa, to the She Sells Differently podcast.
Thank you, Andy. This is so fun to be here. I love that you're helping people to approach sales differently around their products. And I'm here to help shake things up about how we approach our time. Because I believe as believers that we should not be running around like chickens with our heads cut off, trying to get to the end of our list, always saying there's never enough time, right? Because, we actually know the author of time, and that makes all the difference with what we do with it.
What a good statement right there. We know the author of time. And I mean, just a statement out of the box that is quotable, right? And so I think that is just such a good opening statement. And I want to start by allowing you to share a little bit about your journey as you call yourself a recovering busyness owner. Can you share a bit more about how God has used your journey as an entrepreneur and helping you serve Christian women business owners in experience time and approach time in a whole new way?
Yeah, I would love to. Well, it's always so interesting how God has a sense of humor in the journey he brings us on. I would have told you back in the day, I had this time thing all figured out. In fact, like ever since grade school, when you had those assignment notebooks, remember? And we had to we didn't have Chromebooks back then. We're dating ourselves, but right, you'd write down your things. And I was the girl who would write down the homework assignment that she already did just because I wanted to cross it off or check the box. I hope I'm not the only person that does that. So I've always had a planner. I've always had a to-do list. I've always I don't just wake up going, what should I do today? I've got more than enough, right? That's kind of always
That's so me, by the way. Oh
Okay,
my
good.
gosh, so me. Yes.
Yeah. And so, it served me well, got me through school and all of that, got married. I became a teacher. So you have to be, organized with time and lesson plans and things like that. And so really, I thought I had it all figured out. And I became a mom, had 3 kids. My husband was active duty military, so he would deploy for a year at a time. And I'm like, I can do this. I can manage the house and homeschool the kids and run the business and lead the ministry and, take care of myself. And on the outside, I looked like I had it all together. But people would often be like, wow, Lyssa, you're so busy. And what do we do? Especially as women, especially as Christians, we wear busy like a badge of honor.
Yes.
That's the highest compliment. And yet, that's the last thing I want someone to say about me when my life is over is, wow, Lyssa was busy. Because here, I always like to equate it to this story, because you'll remember this, right? Remember back in the day where if you called somebody and they were already on the phone, you got this wah, 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 and you got a busy signal, right? And that just meant that person wasn't available. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing, but when we are always busy, we're not always available. And so I was that mom who was in the room, but not really in the room. I don't know if you know what I mean. I'd be on the floor playing with my kids, but I'm getting the dust bunnies under their dresser and reorganizing the toy bin. Or I'd be, at dinner, but my head was thinking about my business or my ministry or all the things. So anyway, long story short, I had a lot of guilt around just how I was never fully present anywhere. I was always distracted, but I had things to do and I had a plan. And so I had to keep it happening. And finally, my body started showing signs. And I actually started noticing, finally, I'm surprised I actually noticed, that I had this feeling of a ball in my throat. Of course, at first I tried drinking more water. I tried chewing my food better. That didn't change anything. So I was like, I don't have time for this. Oh, well. After a year, hello, right? I was like, maybe I need to look into this. I had a cancer scare in my thyroid. And I thought, oh no, what if something's actually growing? Promised my besties I would go get it checked out. So tried all kinds of different things over a period of time. Finally scoped it. And I remember my doctor sitting me down in his office and he's like, Lyssa, good news. There's nothing growing in your throat. I'm like, oh, good. He said, but you have what's called hystericus globus. I'm like, what's hystericus globus? He said, globus, like a globe, you have the sensation of a ball in your throat. And he said, hystericus, and he starts swirling his finger next to his head like crazy. And he thought this would make me feel better. He goes, that's where they get the word hysterectomy from. They thought women were going crazy in midlife. But anyway, he's like, it's all in your head. You have anxiety over all the stuff you're trying to fit into your day. You're always moving, doing, or whatever. And I'm happy to prescribe you a pill. Now, I am not against medication for mental health things,
Right.
but I knew for me, it was going to be the Band-Aid. It was what was going to allow me to just keep pushing farther and harder and cramming more into my day. And so I remember walking out of that office, and I wish I could say everything changed in an instant. It didn't, but it changed from that moment. And a few weeks later, a book showed up on my front porch called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by a pastor named John Mark Comer. I'm about to read it for the 4th time with my clients. Have you read it?
Love that book. Yes.
Yeah. And it was that book that really shifted, oh, I've got a heart problem. This is not a disordered calendar or a disordered to-do list, and I need to get it all pretty or color-coded or organized or prioritized. Those were good things, but it was really a deeper issue. And so here's where God really started just helping me see time is this gift. Every single day, he lays 24 hours in front of us, just like he laid manna in front of the children of Israel. Am I spending all my time complaining, saying it's not enough or wasting it, trying to chase what I don't think I have? Or am I actually using this beautiful gift he's entrusted to me to do what he's called me to and trusting that it's enough, right? And that that I'm not out there like the world running around after these things, that I think I have to figure out on my own because he's the one who's our supplier and our multiplier. And so really it was from that. And I started business as a health coach. And what I would hear most often when I would call to check in with a client or, a customer or something like that, just life is busy. Oh, just staying busy, 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 busy. And that just really made me go, is this really what he wants for us as his daughters, especially? I'm sure guys struggle with this, but women struggle in a different way. And
Yeah.
specifically, busyness owners. So a busyness owner is someone who's like, they're doing a lot of business stuff, right? But they're not always producing results. And I think that's what happens is we just get busy being busy, checking boxes. And then we, look at the bank account or we look at, the like how many, customers do I have or how many products have I sold or whatever. And it's like, what am I even doing? Where is all this
Yeah.
even going? Right. So,
Is it even moving the needle? Right.
yeah.
And I've seen that time and time again. And I've even been guilty of it in my own business because I get down in the weeds with something and I'm like, wait, is this actually even producing results?
Mhm.
And then I've wasted 4 hours, you know?
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I actually developed a method called the ROTI method, return on time invested. Because with
yes.
money, you would be a fool to be, putting money into some kind of account and not paying attention to what it's producing for you, right? The ROI. But how many of us really pay attention to the ROTI, the return on time invested, because that helps us make intentional decisions around, is this a good investment of time or is this a waste of
Mhm.
time or is this just kind of keeping me, like in a plateaued place? And so I really think time is actually the key under everything because I listened to a bunch of your episodes and I love what you teach, right? But like somebody can have all these great ideas that you teach them, but
Mhm.
if they don't have the timepiece figured out, none of it's going to go anywhere.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm like, maybe this comes down to time. And so I needed it. And so I
Yeah.
figured other people needed it too.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the time management piece because that's what we hear all the time. Time management is the solution. But you actually say it's not the solution to growing your business, but time management is what is keeping you stuck or stagnant. And so you really kind of flip that script. So instead of managing your time, you talk about multiplying it. And so what does that actually mean in practice?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I used to be an English teacher. And so I love to go to a good definition. So to manage literally means to keep contained or controlled. Not a bad thing, right? Like, not a bad thing because I don't want my time flying out the window, right? And whatever. Like, I wouldn't do that with my money. So why would I do that with my time? But like, whenever, think about it like this, think about the manager at a fast food restaurant. If you watch them, they're running around playing whack-a-mole, right? Trying to keep all the
Yeah.
people, everybody in line and getting things back, making sure everything is running. By the end of the shift, they are exhausted. How many of us feel that way at the end of the day? We just were trying
Yeah.
to manage everything all day long. It was whack-a-mole. And if you're able to see me, my hands are literally like pushing down. I'm trying to keep things contained. Nothing can grow when I am trying to keep it down. I'm trying to keep it under control, right?
Mm.
And so when I look at scripture, I look at Matthew 25 and I look at the parable of the talents, right? And this master entrusted talents into the hands of 3 different servants. One of them, what did he do with his talent? He got 1 talent. He went and buried it in the ground. He managed it. And in some ways, sometimes you feel bad for him because you're like, you know what? Like he at least kept it from getting away. Like somebody didn't steal it. He didn't lose it.
Right.
It's not like such a bad thing, right? Except when we see the master's response when he got back,
Mhm.
wicked and lazy servant, like that was not the intention that why he even gave it to him in the first place. But those other 2, they understood it had been given to them to multiply, not to manage, right? To
Mhm.
go invest and to be able to bring back to the master more. Like it was to be used to expand his kingdom. And that it didn't matter that they had 2 or 5. It doesn't matter that we have 24 hours or feel like, that's not enough. Like we are not called to manage our time, just keep it contained under control. We are called to multiply it. We're called to then
Yeah.
multiply the kingdom impact of it, right? And we do that in the context of our life and business. And so I truly believe that when we are trying to manage time or manage anything, we are, like putting a lid on. It like becomes this like, you said, like you only get so far and it may feel good because it feels organized or feels like it's not getting away, but it's not leading to growth. And yes, there's this like open-handedness and a little bit of fear in there of like, I don't know what's going to happen. When I'm letting go of control. Hello, any
Mhm.
other control freaks out there that
Yes. Yes.
micromanage the minutes? Like, but what if we just trust? And what if like we're like, okay, this is what God's called me to invest this time in, and I'm paying attention to the fruit it's producing, the roadie, so that I can make strategic decisions because that's good stewardship, right? And so
Mhm.
time is the difference. That time management is really a fear response. I'm trying to keep time from getting away. And I believe the multiplication, the stewardship is really a faith response. Like, I trust in the one who gave it to me and his bigger purposes. And so I want to hear, well done, good and faithful servant, right? Like, I want to be able
Yeah.
to see fruit. I want people to I want the fruit to be so abundant that people are like, how is she producing those kind of results in her business?
Yeah.
And then it gives us an opportunity to give glory to him, right? Like, if we look like
Yeah.
everybody else, then nobody's noticing.
So I love first that you brought scripture into that and you really talked about the parable of the talents, because one thing I have found, whether it's time management or selling or even marketing your business, scripture has so much to say about how we run our business. And we often overlook that. And so I think the parable of the talents is such a beautiful representation of stewarding your time and the gifts that the Lord has given you. And so I love that you brought that in. What would you say to the woman that hears this and they resonate with it and they're thinking, okay, I see a problem in my own day to day business, day to day life. How do I even make that first step to start multiplying? Because let's be real, even multiplying, it has ripple effects, right? Even out past yourself, ripple effects for your family and your community. And so this is powerful. How do you take that first step? What does that practically look like?
Yeah. Well, I love this question because here's the temptation. Everybody right now, well, they're not going to maybe say time management. Like, they're going to be like, Lissa, give me the time multiplying tip. I want the hack. I want the,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
while there are good things and there are tools that I will share about in just a minute, it always starts in the heart first, right?
Hmm.
And so I really teach, and this is exactly what I had to go through. There are 3 simple shifts that you need to start making inside before you do anything out here. The first one is shifting your belief. Like, we are running around all day long saying, I don't have time, or some version of it. If I had time, when I have time, if only I had time, after the holidays, I'll have time, or after this project is done, or this launch, or this whatever, right? Like, we think that magically we're going to have time. You have time. You want a reality check? Pick up this thing that ring dings and pings at you all day long. Open up your screen time. And
Yes.
right there is evidence that you have time. The average person, get this, spends 4 hours and 37 minutes a day on just their phone. That's just average, which means some people are 9 hours a day. And yes, we're business owners, so we probably are using this a lot too, and for good reason, right? There's not all bad in it. But if you do the math, that's just shy of 100 days a year. And we say we don't have time. So the first thing, it's on the sign behind me. I end every podcast episode with this, is you have time. Like, we have to recognize, like, I am wasting time to say I don't have enough time. Okay.
Right.
You do. Right. So you've got something in front of me. The second shift is from manager to steward, which we already talked about, right? Like, I can't just look at, okay, I have 24 hours. Like, how am I going to keep it contained or under control? But how am I going to invest this in a way that is going to multiply it? Right. And there it takes intention. In fact, my whole business is built off of scripture, because when I was going through what I was sharing with you earlier, I remember sitting in church one day and my pastor was preaching from Ephesians, and all of a sudden, redeem her time came to my mind. And I was like, I wrote in the back of my bulletin, I'm like, this is going to be the name of my business, right? Ephesians 5:15-16 says, look carefully how you live, which means we have to pay attention, not as unwise, but as wise, which means we have to have intention about which choices we're making, redeeming the time, or some versions say, like, making the most of the opportunity. Why? Because these are difficult days. The enemy is
Hmm.
out there wanting to keep us busy and distracted because he knows then we're no threat to him and no use to the kingdom.
Yeah.
So we now have to approach this time as a gift that's been entrusted to us. We didn't create it. I can't save it up from yesterday, borrow from tomorrow. I can't get 25 hours today just because I think I need it. So now how do I multiply this by being a steward? So that's that second shift. And that makes you slow down. Now you're not running
Yeah.
around because it's like, I'm accountable to somebody else. Like, I'm accountable to the master, to the Lord, for what I'm doing with what he gave me today.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop and think first before I just jump into all the shiny objects and things that want my attention, right? And then the third shift is a really simple one, but like super transformative. We run around all day long saying, what time is it? Or asking, what time is it, right? We look at our watch, we look at the clock on our phone, on our wall, on our computer, and then what's the response? It's usually like, Like there's some kind of angst, like I'm behind. Oh, wow, time got away. I should be further. I should have already had this done. Like it's just kind of this like, it breeds hustle, hurry. So I want to take the very same question, what time is it, and shift it just slightly and listen to the difference. What is it time for?
Mm,
Like that slows me down to the presence of time and the purpose of time. Right. And here's how we start eliminating shiny object syndrome. We start eliminating multitasking. How many of us have, been guilty of trying to do the business thing and help the kid with homework and, answer our husband's question and nobody's getting our full attention. And so who knows what we
yeah.
just did or said, right? Like, so yeah, so those things have to happen first before we just jump into, okay, now how am I using my planner or how am I using, these
Yeah.
other tools that we have, right? We have to go, I have time. I'm to be a steward of this time, which means I'm to expand the impact of it. And I have to be paying attention to what it's time for.
Yeah. I love that. And something you mentioned earlier was we all want this easy, simple, quick hack. And I think this is a part of the time and the hustle culture and our desire for instant gratification. We want to be able to just fix what is wrong. And whether it is learning a new skill or changing a lifestyle, changing the way we view time and viewing it from managing it to multiplying it and really being intentional, it's not a simple flip of the switch. It's really slowing down and working through that process exactly as you just described. And I think that that's important to remember because we can often just throw up our hands when we don't get results immediately like we desire and like culture tells us that instant gratification. So I love that you mentioned that because it's so important.
And here's the thing. It's like your closet or your junk drawer. Like you get it cleaned out, you get it all organized. How many times have you done this in your calendar? Like, okay, I'm going to like organize this thing or a to-do list, right? And then what happens? It doesn't last. Order
Yeah.
goes to disorder. It's called the law of entropy. If you remember that from science class back in junior high, like, because you didn't really fix the problem. And so that's
Yeah.
really, I think, where we have to go back to is what is the purpose of my time and how am I approaching it? And now from a place of stewardship and a desire to multiply and to be like, to be expanding, the kingdom with my time, now I can pick up the tools because that's going to be good stewardship versus I just want to feel better about my time or I want
Yeah.
to look better or whatever, which just isn't going to last. And yeah, that's why I think people get really frustrated because
Yeah.
I've tried that, right?
So one thing that we've hinted at, but we really didn't dive into a lot. And I think that this is important, especially from a faith-based perspective, because we are in a culture, we talk about the hustle culture and we glorify busyness. But I want to talk about why busyness and hustle culture is actually the enemy's number one distraction tactic for us as Christians, as Christian businesswomen. So, can you dive a little bit more into that?
Yeah. So interesting. Just last night, my son, he's on a trip for some training. He's also in the military for the next month. And so he had just picked up the screw tape letters to listen to. And in that, if you've ever listened or read C.S. Lewis, it's really interesting, right? Because a different perspective. Some of the advice that this like senior demon, I'm not trying to demonize and say like Satan's behind
Right.
it. So please first, let me just, let's say that, right? But
If you've ever read the screw tape letters or know what it's about, then you'll kind of understand
yeah, so
the
there's this like
perspective. Yeah.
senior demon who's like experienced trying to like, like train this younger protege, right? And like what to do. And one of the pieces advice he gives him is just keep him distracted. Like, so he's assigned to this man, right? Whatever. Like, just keep him distracted because then he's not going to be any threat to what we're trying to do. He's not going to be advancing the kingdom. He's just going to be busy all the time and whatever. And so like, I just think that that's what so often it happens, right? In fact, like I once heard that busy stands for being under Satan's yoke. He would love to keep us feeling busy because how do we feel? We're not light. We're not free. We're not, that's why Jesus invites, like, are you stressed out, worn out, burned out? Come to me, and this is so interesting. I love the way that Jesus says this. And I love the way the Message translates it. So go read Matthew 11:28 through 30, kind of that section in the Message translation, because he's like, let me show you a different way of carrying life and doing work. He's not offering us a mattress or a beach vacation, which is
Yeah.
exactly the rest that we would have asked for. And then we would have come back and went right back into the busyness, right?
Hmm.
He's giving us a yoke, which is a way, a way to carry a weight how do you actually carry life in a different way that's easy and light
Mm-hmm.
and not I'm under the yoke of,
Yeah.
of this. And so when I think about like John 10:10, like Jesus said, I came to give you life. And I always say that, life to the full does not mean a life that is too full, but the enemy comes to what? Steal, kill, destroy.
Yeah.
And again, I think his number one place he can attack, because yes, he can do like the really obvious stuff, but enough of us have been walking with the Lord long enough that we can see some of those things coming. But if he can attack our time and attention,
Mm-hmm.
then he's rendered us, like we're
Yeah.
not really doing anything, And so I really think that is like that number one place. And again, I'm not saying that, Satan's hiding under every distraction or every time your phone rings or whatever, but like paying attention to, am I really hearing the voice of God?
Mm-hmm.
Am I feeling, filled up with the things that my time is being invested in? Or am I just busy just trying to check boxes or get through the day, and get to the end and go, what did I even do today? Did I even make a
Yeah.
difference? Did my time even matter? Because we all know the years go by faster and faster. And,
Yes.
we like, okay, how do I be intentional with this?
That's so interesting too, because as someone that loves checking off the boxes, like I'm a list maker, I love being able to, I'm one of those that will add something to my list just so I can check it off. Like,
Yay. We're
I'm
sisters.
that.
I love it.
Yes. And so it's easy for me to get up and want to dive right into my day and start checking off the list instead of slowing down and being intentional and even just my quiet time, being in the Word, bringing my day before the Lord. And I'm a big prayer journaler. And I have been since high school. I think there's lots of ways that you can pray and talk to the Lord, but mine has always been through writing. And so spending that time in prayer, it is a noticeable difference in my day whenever I slow down
Mhm.
and am intentional. It really is that countercultural piece that I often like, we're talking about that you think, oh, I want to dive on in and start checking things off the box. But it's when you slow down and you are very intentional about even, bringing things before the Lord and meditating with the author of time, with the creator of the universe, that you can really hone in on what is important for your day and go from managing to multiplying your time.
Otherwise, it's everyone else's
Yeah.
demands and requests all day long, ring ding pings,
Yeah.
right? And here's where, so like you described, and this is part of my little, story is that I was a busyness owner, right? But what I help women do is transform into becoming a CEO. And I redefined that as a Christ empowered operator. If you are going to be Christ empowered, you have to spend time,
Yeah.
letting him fill you up. And for a long time, I would spend the time, but it was more of a check the box thing. And then Lissa went off to the rest of her list, right? It was just the first thing
Yeah.
on the list. And I felt good about it. But just, how do you really just like, I'm not in my head already starting to work on stuff or thinking about this thing or the other thing. It's like really just seeking the Lord and being in the Word and being in prayer and praying over my business and my clients and my customers and my products and, the challenges that are coming up and, really just taking that time to let Him speak. It is amazing how it then helps you discern what is it time for
Yeah.
and what is it not. And it just it fills you up, and it's one of those things
Yeah.
that like you're right. Kingdom math is backwards, right? Like it doesn't that's what Jesus he flipped everything. You've heard it said this, I'm telling you
Yeah.
this, right? And it's true. Like you could run around literally 24/7 just trying to check boxes and still not get them all checked. But here's where I love like he challenges us to give him our first fruits, right? So it doesn't
Mm.
necessarily have to be first thing in your day, but here's what happens to me. If I ever like get into something before I get into my time with the Lord, my mind is distracted. It's not the
Yeah.
same, right?
Mhm.
Here's like, even think about this. My clients and I read this book called, oh goodness, I just blanked on the name of it. Mark Buchanan was the name of the author. I'm going to see if it'll come to me in a minute, but it was about sanctifying time. And he talked a lot
Oh,
about Sabbath. And, like so many of us use Sunday as like the catch up day or get ahead for the week.
yeah.
And he says the same thing about the tithe. Like when you bring the tithe into the storehouse, like, do you believe and trust that I am going to give you more abundance because you've honored me with the first part of it, right? So here's a simple practice. Yeah, don't jump right into your to-do list when you wake up. Even if right now I'm saying this in air quotes, right? But all you have is 5 minutes, do it like with the Lord, like,
Yeah.
right? And then let that expand into 30 minutes, right? Or 45 minutes or whatever that looks like in the season you're in and watch. what happens with your time.
Mm-hmm.
Watch what happens when you start giving him that time. And I challenge, people the same thing on Sabbath. I'm not like a legalistic, if it's not 24 hours
Mm-hmm.
Sunday, then you're wrong. No, but try it. It is so
Yeah.
amazing. And here's actually what I have to do on Sabbath. I close the door to my office. If I even have some kind of an inkling in my head, I should go quick do that to get ready for the week. It's like, nope, it's not time for that right now. It is time just to refill body, mind, spirit, with the Lord, with my family, whatever that is, that looks like. And guess what? I end up having plenty of time in the week to the things that really mattered. And so there's a great way to learn to let go of control of time
Yeah.
is, how you're starting your day and ending your day. This is the other thing. I think a lot of us are working till the time we go to bed, right? We're either binging something or we're still responding to something or we're folding something or cleaning something, and then we wonder why it feels like we're always working and why we don't sleep well and why we wake up tired the next day. Like, what if you actually refilled body, mind, spirit at the end of your day
Mm.
and didn't work on something, so we have to have clear boundaries around when is it time to work and when is it not. And that's one of the things that I
Yeah.
teach through a concept called time anchoring, which really helps you stay anchored to the purpose of your time, not just these blocks of time that we line up that are really just either appointments or to-do lists with a timestamp. That is not really what's going to multiply your time. That's just, you trying to keep up
Mm-hmm.
with, all the little boxes.
Yeah. I love that. And that's something I'm guilty of too, of even working like later. I'm a late night owl, and so like working late at night, even like right before I go to bed, or even sometimes in bed, like while I'm binge watching a show. And it's, that's not always the healthy thing to do. And so that's a great reminder. I love that. So, man, there's just so much goodness in this episode. So many good reminders. As we're kind of wrapping up, what would you say to the listener out there that just feels like they're constantly running out of time to catch up? She's letting down her clients, her family, herself. Just if you could speak one truth into her that she takes away from this, what would that be?
I mean, it really is. It sounds simple and it almost sounds like this can't really work, but I'm going to tell you, like, this has shifted everything for hundreds of women that I've worked with. You have time, and what is it time for? Like those two
Mhm.
things, you have to slow down because if you're just trying to cram more into your, hours and minutes in your day, you're only going to stay on that hamster wheel.
Yes.
And so it does take getting off of that, and I challenge you, like when you don't feel like you have time is exactly when, you take a pause, you remind yourself, I do have time. God has given me 24 hours today. And then ask that question, what is it time for? And here's where you start showing up and you're way more present, because again, your brain is not in a million places or you're not trying to do a bunch of things at once. So your family actually gets you when you're around and your clients or customers actually get you. And, like the work that you're trying to do, you like, when we're trying to multitask, it takes twice as long. Hello, we make like twice as many mistakes. Like, who wants to give up more time if we don't have to? Because we don't know what it's time for. Right. And so I think that's really key is knowing I have time. What is it time for? And start really slowing down to like, okay, even just in this, the next 5 minutes, what is it time for? And
Yeah.
kind of practice that letting go of all the things you think you should do and pay attention to the one thing that you do need to do. And really, I believe it comes down to like knowing, of course, that I have time and what it's time for. And then I have to know what to do,
Mhm.
when to do it, and how it connects to what God has called me to grow, whether it's my business or my relationship with Him or my relationship with my family. And so therein, and what I do then is I go beyond this into the actual practical tools with women who have businesses around really getting the schedules, the systems, and the strategies in place that are actually going to help multiply your time. Because if you have a planner, but you're still easily pulled off task, or you get to the end of the day and wonder, what did I get done? Or
Yes.
whatever, you don't really have a schedule that's helping multiply your time. Or even if you have a to-do list or workflows, like, but you're still constantly hunting for things and, like you're jumping from one thing to the next and you have like 10 tabs open, maybe more on your computer screen. You don't have systems that are really multiplying your time. And if you just
Yeah.
have like these vague goals of where you're going, or, maybe even you said the beginning of January, I mean, we're recording this in September. How many of us are going, it's September. What happened? And we're like, as business owners, we're like, I got to get this thing done before December because I am not going to put this on my list again next year, and like, how do we, then like really have this like big vision, but a small focus, right? So that's where the schedule systems and strategies come in that I teach, because it's a way to like, if we do them the right way, you're not managing time, you're multiplying time. And so I've got replacements for each of those. But so those are good tools, but you first have to start with, I have time. And what is it time for? That's the first thing.
I have time, and what is it time for? It's such a powerful reminder that, the problem isn't the lack of time, it's how we're approaching it.
Because you're never going to change the amount of time, no matter how much you try.
Right.
Nobody on this planet ever gets, we do what? Once a year when the clock changes, we get like an extra hour in our day. Did it really change your life, or did you just spend it the same way you do every other hour? And it still wouldn't have felt like enough. Let's be honest, right?
So where can my listeners go to learn more about you and your work and begin multiplying their own time?
Yeah. Well, the best thing to do, if you like podcasts, I have a private podcast called The Productive and Profitable CEO. And in there, I help you shift this way you look at time. And then we throw out the time blocks, we throw out the to-do list, and we throw out the traditional goal setting that is really just costing us time. And I actually have numbers of how much time you're wasting by using those time management tools. But no, don't worry, I give you replacements. I teach you how to use time anchoring. I teach you how to create, systems that are actually multiplying your time and your team's time, right? Because it shouldn't and won't always be us probably in business, especially if you want to grow at a certain level. And I teach you how to growth map your way to the goals you have versus, hoping and praying and then, saying you ran out of time or whatever. So you can find that at redeemhertime.com/hours, because my promise is I will help you save 5 hours this week. And then we're going to help you get back more from your time so you can experience what I call time abundance, the 30, 60, 100-fold return, because we're approaching it as stewards and we're doing it with him.
I cannot wait to dive into that. I will be the first to sign up. I am going to put the link to that private podcast in the show notes. So if you want to dive into Lyssa's podcast, grab that in the show notes. And if you have been caught in the cycle of hustling harder, I want you to take this episode as your permission slip to unhurry your calendar and make time your greatest asset. And as I talk about all the time about selling differently, I love that we dive into a countercultural approach, a faith-based approach on how you're really viewing your time differently, not from a place of pressure, but from an alignment and clarity and purpose from the Lord. So thank you, Lyssa, for joining us today.
Yeah, this has been really fun. I pray it has a good ROTI, return on time invested, for everyone who listens.
Yes. And thank you, listeners, for joining us. And until next week, we'll have another episode of the She Sells Differently podcast on Wednesday. Until then, we are cheering you on. All right, that's a wrap on today's episode of She Sells Differently. Friends, it would be a huge blessing to me if you would take 2 seconds to rate and subscribe to my podcast. New episodes drop every Wednesday. Until then, I'm cheering you on in your entrepreneurial journey. See you next time.